Hey, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today. Um, yeah, we're going to begin our half hour meditation or whatever you do, wherever your mind goes. Be perfect samadhi for 30 minutes. Um, I apologize in advance. I was ill a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago, and I got this lingering little cough going. So if I start coughing, I got my water. I try not to cough for long, but might be doing Cayce's coughing again meditation. So I apologize.
Would you like a cough drop for people?
No, I'm good. Yeah, I have cough drops too. So, but thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Yeah. Let's go ahead and sit, allowing the eyes to close if you like. It's actually quite nice to allow a little bit of light to come in the bottom of the eyelids, if that's comfortable for you. This helps with torpor, with the mind kind of getting dull and sleepy. And maybe starting off with a bit of gratitude to enliven the mind. It's so incredibly rare and precious that we get a moment of turning inward. I have so much gratitude for this opportunity to do so, let alone in a group of like-minded people. So rare, so precious. There's so many causes and conditions to be grateful for, even for a single moment of practice. But all the things we take for granted, like just the ability to commune like this, there's many places in the world that are not able to come together as a group. But maybe most of all, the Dharma karma, that teachings like this resonate with us. And we're taking action on that. These teachings are for everyone and they're available. Yet coming in contact with them, absorbing them, taking action is actually extremely rare and extremely precious. And many times, even this connection itself to the Dharma is perishable. It needs to be nurtured and nourished. And we get that opportunity to do that right here, right now. And to honor the opportunity and to connect in an experiential way to the teachings, we allow the passing mental phenomena to come and go. So we can see past or see through or see more. So as you sit, allowing everything in, allowing everything out, allowing the mind to arrive back over and over again to this present moment, and meeting whatever you find with non-judgmental, open, kind awareness. Nothing is good, nothing is bad. It's simply arising, abiding, and falling away. Slowly coming back to the external environment, allowing the eyes to open, the body to move when you're ready. So welcome everybody. My name's Casey. Very happy to be with you today. Um, is anybody new? Anybody here for the first time? Yeah, welcome, welcome. Yeah, what's your name?
Oh,
Philip. Welcome, Philip. How did you hear about us?
here.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Yeah, thanks for coming. Are you local or
Just visiting.
just visiting? Okay, very cool. Awesome. Where from?
Phoenix.
Okay. Yeah, I'm out there a lot for work. Yeah. It's a good time of year right now, right? It's nice. Not too hot. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Anybody else? Cool. Yeah, so uh, the topic is the Dharma of Resilience today. And I think I've just talked about the same thing since the beginning of 2025. I don't know, some aspect of resilience, um, I think. But I want to talk to a certain aspect of Dharma and resilience this week. And and specifically the topic of emptiness, which is always a fun topic to kind of chat about in a Dharma talk like this, because we have like a half an hour, and emptiness is a very big big topic. It's a subtle topic, but it's an extremely important topic because Buddhism is one of the only uh well, definitely world religions, and even just kind of lineages or thought structures, systems of belief systems and whatnot that emphasize from the kind of beginning, that kind of emphasize liberation through through this thing called emptiness, like the realization of emptiness. If we look at yeah, world religions, if we look at kind of mystical teachings or kind of one-off teachers like mystical teachers like Krishnamurti or Gurdjieff and Ouspensky, or even the mystery schools like the old Rosicrucians of the West and the Sufis and Jainism. You go through them all. Nobody kind of leads with emptiness in such a pronounced way. So it's important that we look at it, even though it again it's really subtle. So we could put this in the category of like right view. So Buddha said that we're just simply not seeing things as they are, and this leads to suffering. And if we want to see things as they are, we first have to see them as empty of inherent nature. So this emptiness of an inherent nature, and this word emptiness, because I know we have a lot of uh, pointing to emptiness. We have a lot of different experiences in the room. We have maybe people that have been in the Dharma for a long time, and I would say that word and it kind of resonates. Maybe people who have never heard the word. Well, I'm sure you heard emptiness, but not in this context. But emptiness is pointing to the lack of inherent existence from its own side of an internal or external phenomena. So things are not inherently existing as one thing from what they call like their own side. We impute something onto them, but they're not existing, as that. And there's not a lot of analogies that we can use that we will kind of go over. But one of the first things to remember is that things are not permanent and fixed. So when we say empty, it doesn't mean that they're non-existent, they're not permanent, and they're not fixed. So a lot of times we'll say like this is a book. Well, it's existing as a book for right now. It's not permanent, it's not fixed. And not only that, it's not existing it's from everybody is not going to look at this, every sentient being, and say, this is a book or a Dharma book, right? An insect might look at it different, a bird might look at it different, or a lot of our minds are going to be looking at it different. And that's one point, is that one thing, for something to exist, it needs a mind that apprehends that thing. So there's a lot of teachings around the experience, or like kind of more talking to that space of emptiness, like within our own minds. There's a lot of teachings around kind of explaining that space, which I will read some of these things. And then there are other teachings that kind of point in a way of instruction, which I want to talk about today too. And again, I want to wrap this around, if I can, just try to wrap this around this idea of resilience. One analogy that's maybe used the most, um, especially in certain types of Buddhism, is the sky-like mind. So when we look at apprehending of the book, what apprehends the book, what actually sees the book, it's not the eyes that actually see, it's the mind. That's why we're all seeing something different, right? And so we want to point out the true nature of mind, and this is obscured in many ways. So we use this analogy of like the sky-like mind. And so it would be the same as saying that, if, for example, the sky noticed, everything appearing in the sky. The sky noticed the clouds, and the sun, and the stars, and the rainbows, and the rain, and all of these things, right? But the sky knew itself as these things and thought of itself as these things. So I'm feeling a bit stormy today. I'm the storm. It's dark, or it's night, or I am warm. The sun is out. I know I'm clear, or I'm the clouds, or I'm the stars. You get my point. If the sky kept saying that I'm the phenomena arising within this space, at some point it would be nice for us to point out to the sky, dude, or dudette, or whatever. You're not those things arising. Did you forget you're the actual sky those things are arising within? Did you forget? Like, yes, the storm's appearing. This is true. These things are arising, abiding for a bit, and then fading away. But did you forget that you were the actual sky? This is what the teachers are pointing to. That, of course, phenomena is arising, but we have leapfrogged onto these things, and we continue to do so every single moment of every day. Like, how you doing today? How you doing? We check in. How am I doing? We check in. Well, I don't know. Let me look at my thoughts. Let me look at my emotions. Let me look at my body sensations. If I look at these things that are rising in the sky-like mind, if they're pleasant, I'll say, I am doing good. I'm doing well. If they're unpleasant, I am not feeling well, right? Instead of looking at these things as appearing. And so we could see very quickly how this points to resilience. Like, if the same things are happening in the sky, if there's a shooting star, if there's a storm, there's lightning or whatnot, it's still happening, but from the perspective of the sky, it's different. There's a relational value that's different. I, the vast expanse of the sky-like mind, is noticing storm arising. I can hang out with the storm. I know I'm not the storm. I can hang out with the storm. Storm arises, storm abides, storm goes away. I am still sky-like mind. I'm still the sky. as opposed to, I am the storm. Please go away, storm. You know. There's many ways that the masters have tackled this, and a lot of times they point to kind of unpacking and unraveling how silly it is to see things as permanent and fixed. So I'll start here a little bit, but then I want to move into the mind itself because it's really it experientially we want to hang out here because we could talk about this for, well, in an infinite way. We could just intellectualize it and conceptualize it. But that has a good motivational aspect to that. But experientially, it's not really strong. So about the impermanent nature of things, we could talk about a gazillion examples, but I'll just use one, just experienced it. So coming in, I live in Temecula now, so I drive in, and it's actually, which is my point, it's a really easy commute because there's no traffic on Sunday mornings. So people ask me, well, how is it coming to Long Beach from Temecula? And I always say, it's super easy. It's an hour. Super easy. Is it always easy? So have you ever been stuck behind the cop who's trying to slow down the freeway for something happening? And you're like right there and you're like, can I pass him? Should I pass him? I really want to pass him. He goes right, I can go left. I could just be like, oh, dude, I didn't know. I was right there. The cop comes and he starts slowing everyone down. They did a road, like a lane closure, so he was slowing everybody down. And so, of course, it's impermanent. It's not always going to be just a straight shot. It's impermanent, right? But we like to put permanence on things. Like, how's the 405? You guys like the 405 freeway? Everybody likes it? Oh, cool. But even the 405, right? It's impermanent. Sometimes, 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever. It might be nice. It's impermanent, right? We're all impermanent. We're not permanent and fixed. There's an empty nature to this. I'm going to keep just kind of touching back in on resilience. When we make things permanent and fixed, it causes suffering because it causes attachment, right? When something is just like this, when it's black and white like this, it's it causes suffering because it's untrue, right? But when something starts to act out of its whatever we imputed on top of it, right? It causes, attachment and suffering. So this is why it matters. When we draw lines around people, around things, and we don't see them as something that's in flux, we get it causes suffering because at the end of the day, we are actually imputing a function instead of a thing. So I'm going to read this little excerpt from Pointing at the Dharmakaya. They have a new version of this, which thank goodness that they do, because this is such a beautiful, amazing text and amazing commentary on a text, and they made a really beautiful new cover, which is really great. Trungpa Rinpoche is one of the most amazing scholars of our time. He's actually the intellectual scholar to the present Karmapa, and he's known for putting really, really complicated topics in digestible form so we can understand it. He's extremely skillful at that. Um, so a lot of times we start off with speaking of empty to like kind of take one thing and kind of break it down. This is what he's going to do here. So when we initially hear or read the statement, all things are empty, it's almost impossible to understand what this really means. But when we, in a rigorous or systematic fashion, study these explanations of the Buddhist teachings on emptiness, which are generally called the middle way teachings, then we come to a decisive ascertainment of what the Buddha meant. To illustrate these logical arguments simply, take my hand. Now, my hand is really my hand. I can see it. I can be aware of it in various ways. It has all the characteristics of a hand, and it performs the function of a hand. So it's entirely reasonable to call my hand my hand. Yet when I actually scrutinize my hand, I cannot find it anywhere. Because if I look at each and every part of the hand, no part of it at any level is actually the hand. On a gross level, if we look at the hand, first we see the thumb. The thumb is not a hand, it's merely a thumb. A forefinger is not a hand, it's merely a forefinger. A middle finger is not a hand, it's a middle finger. A ring finger is merely a ring finger, and the little finger is merely that. Or if we want to go by the materials of which it's composed, the skin is not my hand, the flesh is not my hand, the bones are not my hand, and the marrow within these bones is not my hand. My hand is none of these things, each of which, of course, can be further subdivided. The point of this is that my hand is not one thing. Hand, or my hand to be specific, is a label that we affix on an aggregate, and it is a mere name for the arbitrary, isolated aggregate of things. And then he says, well, you might think, okay, well, there's a hand, but there are fingers, and he breaks down fingers. So we can go on and on. So you get the point. So the shorthand of that, what we say is there's no thing in the thing. Like you can't find the hand in the hand. And again, this is a way that we break down, this is an invitation really. Like words like this and discussions like this, commentary like this, these are invitations to sit and to realize the emptiness of things. And so I always want to point that out because we can get kind of stuck here. So when people talk too long about emptiness, I'm like, you're talking too long about emptiness. Like, you got to go sit. You can't talk your way into emptiness. And if you do, you, yeah, some people have read too much, and they talk too much about it and they haven't sat enough with it. And then they talk about it. It's not to be spoken of. The words are all fake. They're all false. They're invitations. They're saying, hey, maybe things are not so fixed as I thought. Let me go meditate on these things to check it out. So he's just kind of breaking down. So we can kind of break down ourselves like this too, obviously, right? Like where's Cayce and Cayce? Try to find Cayce. If I say to point to yourself, everyone does this. I don't know where we learned it, but we go like that. Like there's a little person in there going, doo, doo, doo. There's no person in there. Like there's no brain scientist that said, oh, there's Cayce. We found him, you know. But it's little things like this because if I point to my shoes, I say shoe, If I point to myself, can't find self, right? And even if I point to the shoe and say, where's the shoe in the shoe? Interestingly enough, there's not one part of the shoe that I could point to that says shoe. But in relative truth, and this is important to note, take a little step back just for a moment. Relative truth, it's a shoe, and it's okay for it to be a shoe. We're talking about ultimate truth, right? Because we need both of these together. So relative truth, of course, it's a shoe, and I'm Cayce, and you're you, and that's cool, right? But when we forget that things aren't inherently one way or the other, when they stop functioning in that way, there's attachment. So like my hand is supposed to function like a hand. If I break my hand, it stops functioning like a hand, and then I get upset, right? But it was never really a permanent fixed hand. It's always subject to break, right? And it's interdependent for it to come into being, it's interdependently arising, not arising from a fixed side. It's interdependently arising. In other words, it's dependent on your mind to see it. It's dependent upon all the aggregates that he talked about. And it's appearing as such. It's appearing, but not self-existing. And so if things are appearing but not self-existing as one way or the other, when I'm on the freeway, it just is. It's not a good freeway. It's not a bad freeway, right? It just is. Like this place is quiet right now until we start meditating and then they flush the toilet. And I love that. That's my favorite part. My favorite part of being here is that we get the ambiance. Sometimes there's people talking outside. We have, Mike and friends upstairs. and you get it all, right? But it's real. It's happening, and then it's not happening. It's quiet, then it's not, and then it's because it's not one way. It's not one particular way. But the mind is one particular way in a way, because like the sky-like mind is stable, right? And it is what is there before, during, and after the things arise and fall away. So we are looking kind of outside of ourselves and the causes and conditions for things to be a certain way so we could have some confidence and why I should say stability. So we're looking for like safety and stability, right? So we're trying to control things that we can't control and asking them to please stay stable, right? So Ajahn Chah said it best when he said you're trying to find certainty in uncertainty and you're all crazy because that's nothing can stay that way because everything's shifting and changing and permanent. But the sky-like mind is stable and at ease all the time, like all the time, right? So go back to the sky analogy. It's sun, it's this, is that, but the sky is the sky all the time. And this is what they're pointing to, right? So I'll read a little something else. So there's a lot of teachings around describing that sky-like mind. And then I'm going to read a little bit of that, and then we're going to do the practice. We're going to actually do a Tibetan style of Vipassana, which is looking directly at the true nature of mind, which is extremely easy, but because it's so easy, it's really hard. Yeah, it's the easiest thing to do. So here's some teachings on how the mind is. In the mind itself, the nature that is pure primordial, there is no obscurations and no antidotes thereto. There's nothing to remove and nothing to acquire, so leave aside conceptual targets. There's no inside, there's no outside. There's no object apprehended and no subject apprehending. Therefore, give up clinging. You cannot recognize this nature saying this, so spare away all your assumptions. There's no attaining it, and there's no non-attaining it. Abandon, therefore, hope and fear. Within awareness, never stirring from the ground, all arisings due to various conditions naturally subside as soon as they appear, like ripples on the water. They are one with Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya, like this book here pointing out the Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya is the truth kaya. It's like the realm of truth, the realm of infinite potentiality. If we could maybe impute a label onto enlightened consciousness, it would be the Dharmakaya. There's other kayas, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. Dharmakaya is the kaya of truth. When I watch the thoughts as they arise, the watcher vanishes. I search for it, but nowhere is it found. Neither is the searcher seen. There is just a freedom from conceptual elaboration. There's no agent, there's no object of its action. So that might sound extremely clear, or not. And that's fine. When we read these things, it's almost like anti-meditation. There's one of my favorites, like Sokni Rinpoche would say, don't meditate, but don't become distraction. Just don't become distracted. Like don't meditate, but don't become distracted. There's like these little koans like this. Because how do you describe, like if, Choyngam Chupa famously did this, he had an image and it was an image of a clear blue sky. And then there was like a bird flying in the sky. And he says, what do you guys see? And then what did everyone say? A bird, right? And like 99.9% of the image was sky, and he's like, true, you know, there's bird, but there's like sky. It's like all over. Like this room, how would we describe this room? How would we describe it? Go ahead and just name something in the room. Walls,
People.
people, name something in the room.
Oh, something. Paintings?
Paintings, whatever. Right. But what's mostly in the room? Space, right? Yeah. So, but and again too, like our minds are like this. Like our minds, I think, just like habitually from survival or whatnot, us perceiving space does not matter, but us perceiving something moving in a bush matters, right? So we see movement, we see objects and we see movement. Like, and but we do this when we look into the mind. Like we can't see the sky-like function, like the sky-like mind, even though it's the only thing that's there. Like our mind, because I've mentioned to people for years, oh, I teach meditation, and they're like, my mind's crazy, and I'm like, your mind's not crazy. Your mind is so not crazy, but 100% of your attention on 1% of your mind. And if that mind is the data part, right, that which is arising, it might seem very chaotic. So we have to teach ourselves. So obviously when they're talking about these things that seem strange and talking about the mind's like that, like the mind's like that, the mind's like that, you're like, where? Because my mind's not like that. Like my mind, I'm seeing the data in the mind. I'm seeing what's arising in the mind because we're habituated, just like in the world, just like the analogy. So the analogy is that we see the movement of the mind. We don't see the stillness. In fact, we're so not used to seeing the stillness or perceiving it, it's hard to even recognize it. So this is why we say pointing out the Dharmakaya, pointing out the vastness, the stillness, the peace, the equanimity, the calm, the steadiness, the luminosity that's already there, like already there. It's already here. It's so close, we can't see it, and it's not hard because it's too difficult. Again, it's hard because it's too easy. It's too simple. Okay. Um, I'm going to read something from Hung Po just because Anthony's online. And if you guys know Anthony, he give me a thumbs up. I think Anthony could recite this entire book. I think, like literally, word for it. So Hung Po, our original Buddha nature is the highest truth, devoid of any atom of objectivity. It is void, omnipresent, silent, pure. It is glorious and mysteriously peaceful and joyful, and that is all. Enter deeply into it by awakening to yourself. That which is before you is it, in all its fullness, utterly complete. There is not beside. Even if you go through all the stages of a bodhisattva's progress towards Buddhahood, one by one, when at last, in a single flash, you attain to full realization, you will only be realizing the Buddha nature which has been with you all the time. And by all the foregoing stages, you will have added to it nothing at all. You will come back to look upon those eons of work and achievements as no better than unreal actions performed in a dream. That's hopeful. All the work you're doing, completely worthless.
No.
Just stop. But he's pointing to that. He's pointing to the stopping. He's pointing to like You already are what you're seeking. And we have to trust in that. And that's the hard part, because if I gave you something complicated to do, you could do it. If I gave you like A to Z, if I gave you a step-by-step enlightenment, PhD to enlightenment as PhD, like no problem. You'd say, whatever. But if I say, be yourself, we'll take Ethan. Be Ethan. Ethan's now got a problem.
Who am I?
Who am I? How am I supposed to be myself? It's too easy. You're like, well, I already am myself. It's like, good, done, cool. But in that, if you see, like, this is a subtraction problem. So all the things that are in the way are the things that we're grasping onto, right? We're grasping. We're grasping onto the sun and the stars and the clouds and the this and that. And again, rest is sky-like mind. Well, what's that mean? We'll stop grabbing onto, like even enlightenment or the search or the pursuit and all of this. Like all of that motivation outward is stopping us from just perceiving what is already here. Just that perception. Oh, I am that. Oh, I am that. Like turning inward. It's interesting. I was sitting with Anam Tupten one time, and he said, look at your mind. He's like, just look at your mind. And then he felt, I don't know, he felt the room maybe be a bit uncomfortable. He's like, why are you overcomplicating it? If I asked you to look at a table, you could look at a coffee table. I said, look at your mind. It's not complicated. Just look at your mind. And like, but we overcomplicate it. Like, whoa, where's my mind? Like, what's he talking about? You know what I mean? He's like, but he's giving everyone the confidence. He's like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When I ask you to look at your mind, and whatever you do right then, you're looking at your mind. Don't overcomplicate it, you know? Okay, one more, and then we'll do like a little meditation. Nah, we'll just do a little meditation. Okay. It's too complicated. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do this fun one. This book is amazing. Like I said, it's a Tibetan style Vipassana. It's very, very, very pithy. There's a few different texts within this series, but this is the most pithy of them all. And and so he's looking at the emptiness of things and giving an actual like pointing out in like not classical pointing out instructions, but pointing out the different aspects. And so he's looking at I was 11. He's looking at the mind within stillness, the mind within movement, and he also is looking at the mind within appearances. So how is the mind in relationship to that which appears in mind? So for this one, I want in each of you can pick a different object. So what you're going to do is pick an actual object. It could be, oh, we have this amazing artwork on the wall, maybe that, and just allow your mind to rest on that. Then I'm gonna ask you some questions, and these questions are a bit like a koan, which you're not trying to actually figure out the answers conceptually or analytically at all. But how I like to put it is simply experience the answer. And again, don't overcomplicate it. So you're looking, and this is going to be appearing in mind, and I'm going to ask some questions, and that's that. Yeah, you can experience those the answer. So go ahead and rest your gaze. So in this technique, look with your eyes in a way that is very relaxed, so that not seeing the details of anything in your line of vision, your mind will start to relax. And you will begin to experience an absence of separation between the perceived external object and the perceiving or experiencing cognition. So allowing your gaze to relax, so you're looking at the object, and also this perceiving or experiencing cognition, there's also a knower that's present. And it's okay to be aware of this. There's a thing that is being perceived and a knower of what is being perceived. So looking at this very calmly. So the first thing to do is paying attention to that which knows. So again, there's an appearance of something. And you can also look to see where this consciousness arises. So you're looking, where does the consciousness that is perceiving the object, where does this arise from? Does it literally come from anywhere? The consciousness that perceives, does it come from anywhere? Does it abide anywhere? Does it go anywhere? There's an object appearing to the mind, appearing to consciousness, the consciousness that's perceiving it. Does it come from anywhere? Does it abide anywhere? Does it go anywhere? Did the consciousness that knows, did it go out towards the object? Or did the object come into the consciousness? In other words, how is this form appearing in mind? How did it appear there? And lastly, regarding the object, is there anything discerning? Is anything different between the cognition that is perceiving the object and the object? Is there anything substantially different between the object itself that's being apprehended and the knowing consciousness where this object is appearing? Again, we're experiencing the answer. Okay, and then just coming back. Everything's clear now, isn't it? Nothing need more to be done. Um, how was that? Anyone want to share?
Um, I felt like by putting my attention on the objects and not the way that was prescribed, that there was a equanimity between the perceiving and the object and the sort of flattening of anything external.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny, I just have to say it, was this water bottle right here.
Okay, yeah.
At one point, I was getting tired, I closed my eyes, I opened up, and she was drinking it, but it was
It's just gone. You're like emptiness. I've experienced it. Wow, it's easy. 5 minutes. It's gone. That is funny. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
I was using the door handles because they have such a functionality that such a salient feature, and it's hard to pull away from that idea that
Mm.
they're in exactly the right place and the right position, the right shape to put your hand around it to pull it, and to be able to perceive it differently takes a little manipulating of your mind in a way because it's just so obvious that that's where it's what it's there for.
Yeah.
And so then I thought about the two, parts that connect to it, and if the handle existed without the two parts, it serves no purpose. And if one part is not working, then it doesn't really work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I closed my eyes and I just tried to kind of like think about the different parts and almost like manipulating my mind to kind of move different levels of salience of different, what's in front of my mind, the parts, and just having different
Yeah.
perceptions of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting how you use the word yeah, but manipulating the mind to not seeing its function, you know? Um and it is kind of a manipulation of sorts, but it's like a manipulation of non-doing, because the mind wants to see all of that and make all of that up. And I like where your mind went, like the analytical aspect, and this is an aspect of it. And so, what I would follow up with that, so after your analytical kind of deconstruction of it, like we talked about the hand, then the other piece would be just watch it and see how it appears experientially to see, like, is this appearing, this whatever's appearing in the mind, um, you know, what is that experience like? Like those questions of like, is appearing, like how did it appear? That perceived consciousness and that which is perceiving, how is that different? You know, kind of letting go of all the thinking about. So the thinking about gets us to do it. And then we kill the Buddha. Is that term, kill the Buddha? This is like when you take all your teachings and you throw them all out. This is the part where you throw it all out. But you need it to get us there. We get all the intellectual stuff and then we throw it all out because then we have to experience something that transcends the concepts, transcends the mind part. Yeah.
Um, the prompt about is my mind reaching after the object or is the object coming to me?
Yeah.
It's probably the most interesting prompt because if I'm just looking at the object, it's in my consciousness already. It's not there when I'm not looking at it, but it's still there if I'm not. But it just breaks my brain a little bit, like in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a really odd feeling. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. Like in just experiencing it experientially, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I think about the object being there, that's a concept, and that's actually obscuring my experience of its actual existence being there. And then, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. When we're doing this practice with appearances, it's kind of it's a little bit more advanced because, appearances are appearing in mind and kind of as mind. It's easier with internal formations, and even sound. Like we could hear this cars. It seems like out there, but where do you hear the sound? Where do you experience the sound? Where do you experience it? Inside, right? You experience it inside. And again, so therefore, is your consciousness going out to that? And then, with sound, it's interesting how that's appearing like that. And yeah, is that experiencing cognition any different than the sound? So something very fascinating, I think, so this is just experiencing, it's just being experienced, like sound is being experienced inside, right? We mentioned that. The whole point of it is that we're investigating, because this is an insight. Like this is an example. The point is not what we're finding. The point is that we're looking. So when you look like this and you see that, oh, sound appears in my mind, but I never think that I'm the sound. That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? Something appearing in mind and imputing an I on top of that. And yet here we are. Fear arises, disappears, just like sound. Fear can arise in mind, and all of a sudden I'm scared, or doubt arises, or a mental formation, an idea or belief. All of a sudden, it's mine, right? So we self-identify with some things. And again, this is just one random insight. When we look into the phenomena arising in mind and we look at these things, oh, I just noticed I attached my I-ness to that thing appearing, but not to that. Not to a plane overhead or the cars. That's a sound, or a dog barking. But another formation, all of a sudden, that really has me, right? That has me locked in. Yeah.
That just brings up that, what's happening within emotional thoughts, they're happening within as opposed to the plane or the sound of the car passing, whatever, that those are external of our perceived self. So I'm not sure what I'm asking, if I'm asking, but
Yeah. Well, and the invitation here is playing with that inner and outer, because we're building up sight actually. Like in other words, like how do we perceive? People say, well, we perceive with the eyes, but actually we're perceiving with the mind, right? In other words, we're building up, we could see outside, right? Because when you hear the cars, then you're actually building up an image of that. And just like we literally build up an image of people, like people and things. If somebody, if a red Corvette passes by, somebody's going to be like, that car's really stupid. Red Corvettes are so dumb. And then some people would be like, that's my favorite car. And then somebody buys that thing and spends a lot of money for that. But as you see it, it's empty from its own side. Red Corvette or a little red Corvette.
Some of us hear Prince.
And some of it are Prince. That's the best.
Right.
Little red Corvette. So it's appearing in mind. But if it's appearing in mind, so we think of all of our suffering, going back to resilience here, we think of all of our suffering and everything. If it's appearing in mind and these things that are causing us the suffering or whatnot, it gives us agency to work with it in a different way, right? Um, there was a story here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But well, just so like. I think I read it here. I think I read Longchenpa here, but someone was talking about the pristine, like think of this pristine sky-like mind analogies and this and that of like, oh, the mind's blissful and this and that. And so coming from that view, like meeting our life, is a bit of a different, again, relationship. So same things that we have to deal with and be with in a very real way, and meeting the suffering of the world in a very real way, but doing it with the resiliency of having this place of refuge is the point. The point is not spiritual bypassing. The point is not ignoring, right? The point is, can I come back to something that's very real as a place of beingness that is empowering for me to take on those bodhisattva actions, right? Can I drink from the well of my infinite self as I tackle the day-to-day issues? So wisdom rules the ultimate truth. If we have wisdom, prajna, without compassion, it turns to nihilism, right? So this is the danger of like these teachings, especially too soon on somebody's path, is they're like, oh, everything's empty, it's okay. No, it's not okay, because there's only one truth, right? Ultimate truth. It's just one truth. So we need the other wing, which compassion. Compassion rules relative truth. Like there is good and bad and evil and things that we need to take care of. There's people that are really suffering. We need to take care of them. We're really suffering. We need to take care of ourselves. We can't bypass that. But too much compassion without the wisdom piece turns to attachment, right? So we need the two wings to fly true. So we're trying to fly to enlightenment. And if one wing is too strong, we fly. And then what happens is like in samsara, like we're all kind of bent, like we're kind of born that way because we're not taught ultimate truth. We're not taught how to see sky-like mind. And so we're so crowded and everything is so chaotic and it's all the datas and all of that. There's no release,
I haven't quite heard it framed like that, the wisdom being ultimate truth and compassion being relative. But it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a good way to see it, to make it a little more directionful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they both, commingle kind of, but like maybe being ruled by. Um, yeah, usually I like smaller groups, obviously, but I think that the topic today, it's fun to talk together. Um, any other questions? I'm gonna read one more thing, but yeah.
I wanted to
Or comments.
bring up the idea of permanence
Sure.
and maybe the relationship or the difference between emptiness and impermanence. So I don't know. That was kind of I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on the difference between those two things, or how they're related to each other. More how they're related to each other.
Yeah, great. Impermanence is the absolute key to understanding emptiness. Like if we have impermanence, we have it all. A lot of times you're speaking of emptiness. We think of the three marks of existence: impermanence, dukkha, and emptiness itself. They're kind of like all related. Because if we have impermanence, we have dukkha and emptiness, because not everything is existing as that thing for long, right? So we say it's not permanent, it's not fixed, right? So take glasses, for example. It's just abiding here for a moment as this, right? Because these parts came from somewhere else and we put them together for this moment, but they're not inherently existing as glasses. So say like a teenager, like Susie's a teenager. Well, she's a teenager right this second, maybe, yeah, but she's shifting and changing, right? So she's empty from her own side. She's not eternally existing as teenager. It's just like she's functioning as a teenager in this moment, right? So yeah, impermanence is the key, and it's kind of like a kite. We grab onto impermanence and we keep bringing the kite back, the kite's emptiness, but we're tethered to it by impermanence. So if we just continuously connect with impermanence, then automatically emptiness arises.
Emptiness is no self. Not that same basic.
Anatta or shunyata, yeah. So anatta, like sometimes emptiness will be when it's for self, which is the root, right? Because if we find the emptiness of self, then we go from finite to infinite potentiality. Like so everything, the root of wrong view is seeing ourselves as permanent and fixed. Or like say like we're a pixel. Instead of seeing the whole screen, we're like one little pixel. But also within the teaching of like shunyata, like the emptiness of phenomena is really, really helpful too. It's kind of like doing metta. Like we do metta for all beings. We do metta for ourselves. And by doing metta for all beings, like loving kindness, we move into selflessness. And it's a way of emptiness. It means emptiness of self because there's so much fixation on the service for others and the kindness of others that we blend into all beings, that kind of a thing. So same thing. Like when we see the emptiness of self, we see the emptiness of all phenomena, you know, and everything's appearing. You know, the most common example is a rainbow. A rainbow is appearing, but not existing, right? We could see it, but it's not something tangible and real. So things are existing, you're existing, everyone's fine. Everything's fine. Everyone's on the ground. Whereas Chumpa. I really messed that one up. Choingam, why can't I say Chumpa? Yeah, Choingam Chumpa. Anyway, he was my favorite. He said, um, the problem is you're falling, but the good part is there's no ground. Yeah.
Amazon Prime, there is a documentary called Everything and Nothing.
Yeah.
It's really a physicist has made it. So it's really physics heavy.
Yeah.
But if you come from a spiritual place, you can't help. Half of the documentary drives how everything is in nothing, and the other half goes into how nothing is in everything. Like it is very
Love it. Yeah. It's called some Everything and Nothing. So for those online, Everything and Nothing, a documentary on Netflix. On Prime. I love that. I love all the science that points to that. Perfect. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
connected it spiritually.
Yeah. I know, it's so cool. Like they've seen.
I mean, say what she said, because I couldn't hear any of it.
Oh, she said that there is a documentary. It's Everything and Nothing. It's on Prime, and it's from a scientific background, but they are realizing the same kind of principles of emptiness, but from a scientific view. Yeah.
I think the general concept is as you get down to a more subatomic level, and you realize how much everything is actually space. That
Yeah,
the
space between space.
emptiness and
Yeah.
reality that we don't
Yeah.
experience. So all of this.
They keep going deeper into vacuum and inside and vacuuming.
Yeah, yeah. And then we could just like do the ultimate shortcut, which is like give up on trying to find the intellectual answer, and look into the mind. And this is what the whole, the whole point. So, yeah, go ahead.
And vision when you were talking about and I hear what you were saying about asking about impermanence and emptiness, and I think meditation or any kind of mindfulness can be such an effective tool for seeing that connection. And for me, like I had the vision of when you're in an emotional turmoil, it's like a storm cloud inside your brain, and as you breathe and get to that home base and start experiencing the sounds and the sights and everything else, and the idea that everything is sort of equal, and then the clouds can kind of disperse into they're no longer clouds. What you
Yeah.
they were are no longer that, and
Yeah,
it can be an outlet. It can be a
yeah, absolutely.
to see that connection.
Absolutely. So let's meditate one last time. We'll dedicate the merit. And we'll do a little Longchenpa along the way. Longchenpa is my favorite Dzogchen Nyingma masters. He's got a way to describe this nothing. He could write 400 pages on it. So allowing the eyes to close. Let it exist. Let it not exist. Let it manifest. Let it be empty. Let it be. Let it not be. Let it be good. Let it be bad. Let it be realized. Let it not be realized. What remains is a naturally pristine, naked state, consciousness that is empty and evanescent, an all-embracing, open dimension in which no traces remain. Being back into gratitude, coming full circle today. May all the wisdom and the realizations and the togetherness and all the insights individually and collectively, maybe dedicate the merit by sending this out to the hearts and the minds of all sentient beings everywhere, knowing that we're all connected in this beautiful consciousness of beingness. May all beings everywhere, without exception, may they all be happy, truly, truly happy, and free from suffering. Om Mani Padme Hum.
Great talk. Thanks, Casey.
That was great.
Thank you so
And
much,
thank
you
you,
guys.
Casey.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone online. Appreciate you so much. Thanks for joining us.
Remember Donna? Get a chance over here or
See you guys.
just remember you will be giving nothing.